Papua New Guinea today is facing an unprecedented challenges of high inflation, huge unemployment, fuel shortages, keener devaluation, lack of sufficient level of foreign exchange, increased challenges of law and order management, shortage of medical supplies in hospital, health centers, clinic, aid posts throughout the country, continuous power blackouts throughout Papua New Guinea over decades, and ranking of Papua New Guinea as one of the most corrupt countries in the world, listing it within the International Corruption Perception Index 29 out of 100 as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. That is why I cry. Ever since Papua New Guinea gained its independence 50 years ago, it has slowly descended into a slippery slope situation when it is dreaming to become the richest black Christian nation in less than 5 years by 2030. The present coverage and the services by the government departments had badly deteriorated progressively over the last 50 years. Poor management of resources, including human resource, slow and inconsistent economic growth which cannot match the population growth, lack of investment in developing human skill and capacity in government workforce. There is a real need for public servants to have a real sense of purpose by following clearly defined career path which leads to professional working atmosphere where public servants will aptly skill that they can positively and effectively contribute to the nation building. The post-independence development discourse in Papua New Guinea has been about challenges of translating the vast potential of this beautiful country into high standard of living for everyone. The potential for the future prosperity and the hope of the people of Papua New Guinea are presently under a real threat of inefficient, incompetent, and corrupt leadership in both our political leaders and the public servants. Every government sector within the administration sector, economic sector, the social sector are currently in the dire need of the serious needs of resuscitation. All sectors are in intensive care unit. Competent specialist hands are required on deck, so to speak, to bring all government sectors out of the intensive care unit and slowly nurse them. If these challenges are not given serious attention now, then our only way over the next 50 years is to end up in the morgue. The post-independent discourse in Papua New Guinea over the last 50 years has been about the challenges of transiting the vast majority of this beautiful, God-blessed country into improving the standard of living for everyone. The potential for the future prosperity and the hope of our people of this country are under a real threat of inefficient, incompetent, and corrupt leadership. Papua New Guinea, by comparison with many developing countries in our region and around the world, is exceptionally richly endowed with both renewable and non-renewable resources. However, since independence, we have not so far used the proceeds from this rich endowment to lay down strong building blocks for the sustainable future development of our children and our grandchildren. Governments after governments over the last 50 years have been making the same mistakes. These governments have been throwing huge amount of money just nilly-willy into various projects and have mistakenly hoping that money alone will salvage the entire development challenges. This, of course, will not happen, as is the sad case over the last 50 years, in which billions of kina has been squandered, leaving behind no visible, tangible building blocks behind for our children and our grandchildren to cope with going into the future. It is not the absence of wealth that we are suffering from in Papua New Guinea, but clearly it is the absence of competent, effective leadership management of that wealth that we are suffering from. We must never allow ourselves to underestimate the linkage between good, competent, uncorruptible leadership and management and the well-being of our people. Good, uncorruptible leadership and management are not something that we can hold up as a vague notion or a distant goal. It is something that is essential. It is something that is non-negotiable. It is something that we must doggedly pursue regardless of personal costs, regardless of barriers, and regardless of setbacks, regardless of difficulties and frustration. For without good, uncorruptible leadership and management, our people will continue to suffer as they have been over the last 50 years. It says in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 2, and it is inscribed at the front pinnacle entrance into our Parliament House in Waigani, and I quote, "When the wicked rule, people suffer. When the just rule, people rejoice," end of quote. In foreign unproductive debts as we are presently doing, all our important physical infrastructure will not be properly maintained. Our capacity to provide the much needed basic services to the bulk of our people will be depleted. Without good and competent leadership, children will not receive the quality education they are entitled to. Fathers cannot find employment and cannot support their families. Without strong leadership and management, opportunity to grow our economy and attract foreign investment will be limited. Without strong leadership and management, we lose support of our development partners and we lose the confidence of our financial lenders. Without good leadership and management, we waste the very money that should be used to strengthen the infrastructure and program essential to achieve the aspiration of our people. According to the United Nations rating, Papua New Guinea ranks among the lowest or even worse in Human Development Index. Our child and maternal mortality rates remain very high. The very sad thing is that high mortality rates occur mainly from preventable diseases. Our life expectancy rate is low, around mid-60s. Our literacy rate is low, with many of our children lacking access to good quality education. Close to half of our population are living in stolid poverty. Basic government services have deteriorated to such a state that they can no longer provide the basic services that they are supposed to provide. Schools, aid posts, health centers, roads, bridges, airstrip maintenance, police and prison services, and general national and provincial administration have all but broken down. I see poorly educated children. I see seriously run down public buildings. I see news headlines every day about fraud and corruption within our society. In urban centers, I see the social effect of poverty expressed in terms of squalid living in squalid settlements in which crimes and violence readily breeds. So how can a nation of people so richly blessed with such wealth and natural resources suffer in the way so many of our people do as we are entering 50 years of our independence? Where is the wealth that we are so richly blessed with going to? Clearly, much of the people's natural wealth has not filtered into the people in terms of social services. It is not the absence of wealth in Papua New Guinea that we suffer, but again, it is the absence of competent leadership management of that wealth that we suffer. We must never allow ourselves to underestimate the linkages between good, competent leadership and the well-being of our country. Good, uncorruptible leadership management is not something we